All right, so good morning. It's Wednesday, March 24th. We're going to continue talking about the New Deal. Ryan and Ayana, do not worry about that entry ticket today. Uh, it's a lot of trivial information and a lot of stuff that really, if you aren't somebody who really explores this stuff, you're not going to know. And even I forget what each of these programs do. And I've been teaching this for this is the 21st year I've done this now. So don't worry about that. But today we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the New Deal, okay, or what it's all about, the different programs it utilized. So let me get that ready. I'll share my screen and we'll get to work. Okay, there's no video, so hopefully I don't think it'll take more than a half hour to get through this. So you already did your entry ticket today, so good job. Going to do New Deal the presentation, then you guys need to do the exit ticket, and then there is a homework assignment, and I'll go over that before I let you guys go. Okay, so the New Deal. Let's get back. Here's what we did yesterday. We talked about Franklin D. Roosevelt's going to be president, so FDR. So you hear me say Roosevelt or FDR, that's who I'm talking about. What he does and what this New Deal does, and it really wasn't him, we just give him credit for it. I mean, all the stuff he does has to be passed by Congress. I can't say that enough. You know, just like now, the president comes up with the stuff and he's going to be, even President Trump, a lot of stuff he came up with, yeah, he did, but Congress still had to approve a lot of it. So we give the president credit, but there's other people who are actually doing it as well. So the president's just that it's easy to give one person credit for something, or on the other hand, blame one person when things don't go right. Just like Herbert Hoover with the Depression. It wasn't his fault the Great Depression started, but people blamed him for it. And that's why he wasn't even thought of for re-election. So for his first 100 days, we're going to see Roosevelt do a lot of things, okay? But he focuses on the three R's. Relief. This is to help people immediately, you know, find food, find shelter, find clothing, you know, hopefully find jobs, okay? The finding jobs is more the recovery, you know, finding jobs for people, creating jobs, that kind of thing. And then the reform. And reform is so nothing like this can happen again in the history of our country. All right, so those are his three goals in the first 100 days, and they're good goals. The first thing we talked about was the bank holiday. If you remember from last week with the crash from Thursday, when the crash happened, a lot of banks closed. The bank holiday closed every bank in the country for 4 days, and then the government went over the records, you know, what they're doing with a fine-tooth comb and made sure that they were going to be good and solvent before they were allowed to open back up again. All right, so they had to be in good financial health, as it says. His fireside chats we ended with. So he's given these radio speeches every day. Well, not necessarily every day, but at least once a week to explain what's going on. You know, just tell the country, hey, this is what we're doing to help you be happier. All right. And one of the big things about the way he was is he's kind of talking to people who weren't necessarily Democrats before. Okay, this is where the big shift in the Democrat population became a fact. Because before Roosevelt, the Democrats were they were the people that were pro-slavery. All right, Lincoln helped found the Republican Party. So the Republican Party's goal was to stop slavery from spreading in the new territories when our country was founding. Okay, and so Lincoln and his Republican Party were always the ones that most minority groups flocked to. After this New Deal, we're going to see these minority groups flock to the Democratic Party. So this is a big shift in policy with the two different parties. And it's almost like they just flip-flopped and renamed themselves the opposite name. in the way they do this. And one of the reasons why is through his fireside chats and through what a lot of things he's doing, he's helping people that need help, where these people never got help before. And that includes minorities, that includes immigrants, that includes ex-slaves. I mean, there were some ex-slaves living at this time. I mean, there were at least kids of ex-slaves working. So he's looking at some of these people and trying to help them. Not a lot though, especially with the African Americans in the South, because if he really focused on helping them, he wouldn't get the votes from the Southern leaders. And that would have been a problem. He wouldn't have been able to pass this program. So in some cases, he kind of looks over them, but in other cases, he helps them at the same time. So it's very kind of confusing in the way it works. But we're just going to go over the main points. All right, so here's a good cartoon. I think it's real good. I hadn't seen this before. So we have FDR. He's playing the doctor right there, and he's giving Uncle Sam a bunch of different medicines. And these medicines, it's like, I don't know how to cure this, so I'm going to keep trying different medicines until we find something that works. And that's what this New Deal remedies are. And you see, of course, we may have to change remedies if we don't get results, so if you have some kind of medical procedure, I mean, not just problem, they might give you different things to hopefully find something that works. And this is kind of what the theory was behind a lot of his New Deal things. And he has a ton of New Deal programs, and they all have acronyms. Okay, so the first kind of programs he has are the public works programs. And within these, there's even more programs. So it's kind of just one of these things. That's going to go to Hilt. Hold on. That's going to go to Mr. Hilt.
Yes, did you want to explain it or no?
I can, but I'm in the class right now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So creating jobs. So public works, one of the main ones is the Civil Works Administration, the CWA. See, these things are impossible to remember. CWA. Okay. So this one, we have people doing things that help our country. So they're going to build and improve roads, parks, and airports. This stuff's government owned. So the government is going to pay people to do this kind of thing. So this is going to give 4 million people jobs that they did not have before. And that's a lot of these jobs programs are all about, well, we need this stuff done. We'll just put money into this stuff and we'll get people to work at it at the same time. Another one is the Civil Conservation Corps, CCC. This was a big one right here. Conservation for the environment, restoring, maintaining forests, beaches, and parks. 2.5 million unmarried men. So what this one does is we had a national park system before this, and we had land and stuff for national parks. But after this, they're going to make the trails better. They're going to put up fences. They're going to build lodges. They're going to do a lot of different things in these parks to really make the parks the way they are today in some cases. And I mean, before they were just land. And this is actually making them more usable to other people. And these people lived in camps, had food and medical care provided for them. See, the difference here is these Civil Conservation Corps guys, they were more, like I said, they're in a lot of parks. And so they're in isolated areas. And that's why they're in these camps. And where the Civil Works Administration, they're more in urban type areas. But they're in civilization where the civilian CCC people were not. And here's just a couple pictures. Here's a camp number 1. All right, the first one they do, and you see they're in the middle of the woods. Look at this other one for them getting food. So they're all in line to get their dinner or their lunch or breakfast, whatever. But you see how primitive it is. They have a tent for their kitchen. So that just shows you that they're in the middle of the woods somewhere doing this stuff. And that's kind of what this project was known for. So these are just 2 things for the public works. There's going to be more, and we'll get to them. All right, business help. So here's how he's going to help business. The National Industrial Recovery Act, okay? The NIRA, It's the NRA. I don't know why this NIRA is in there. Anyway, business planning through the use of industry codes. Basically, they're going to come up with laws that industry has to follow from now on. All right, and these include regulated working conditions, and they're establishing a minimum wage. So minimum wage is established throughout the country. It's going to talk about production, what they can produce, how they can produce it type deal. Going to talk about prices. They're going to have their prices fixed in many cases for a while this is going on. They're taking away collective bargaining. If you remember, that's when unions and the employers negotiate with one another. That's called collective bargaining. And normally it's for wages, it's for retirement, it's for working hours, working conditions. That's the kind of thing that unions and the employers will argue about or collectively bargain. So in this case, it's going to take away this collective bargaining for a while, and the government's going to kind of make them come up with a deal. Okay, and so a lot of industries had this NRA patch or little logo sign on their business showing that they're doing their part, to make them a little popular. Another one is the Public Works Administration. And I know there's all kinds of these. So you don't have to memorize them. Okay, they're not, let's see, they're all important. I guess I want you to realize they exist and just see what their Roosevelt and the Congress is doing in the New Deal to make it work. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, so Public Works Administration is going to kind of be like the other two, the workers, and I would put that in the work creation slide, not this one, but I didn't make these slides. They're going to have major projects. The Cleveland Metropolitan Housing Program originally was one of these projects. So basically, almost every county in America had some kind of major project that was funded by this Public Works Administration. And again, it's what they're doing is they're creating jobs and providing services or providing things that are needed. So the Grand Coulee Dam is one. Key West Causeway is another. We're going to see a picture of that in a minute. You've seen the Key West Causeway on TV before, I guarantee it. The New York City Triborough Bridge. This one was mentioned by John Green. So these are all major undertakings that get done during the New Deal using government dollars to try to get people working. And it works a little bit. Okay, so there's the bridge. I'm sure you've seen on movies before. It's in a lot of movies. This bridge that's over in Florida. Anytime they're in Florida, filming a scene on a big long bridge, that's it right there. So that's the Key West Causeway. Here's the New York City Triborough Bridge. Like I said, there's all kinds of things. I had a map in my previous slides that I'd done for the years. I wish I would have put that on there, but I couldn't find it this morning easily, so I didn't really have time to put it in here. Another thing they're going after is stock market recovery. So the stock market crashed. Well, we got to fix it. Okay, first thing to do is Federal Securities Act. It's still around today. It's a big thing. Requires companies to provide information about their finances if they offer stock for sale. So you can't just say, I'm offering stock for sale in this company. We make bottled water. Okay, you have to talk about your finances, how much the company's worth, how much your capital is, how much you have, how much you pay, how much you make per year. All these kind of things are part of this required before they're able to sell stocks in their company. All right, so this is something that keeps the stock from being overvalued like it was before the Great Depression. All right, so here's like stock prices. I think this, actually, I don't know what this is. I'm guessing it's unemployment, but I don't know what this graph is. There's no legend to it, but as you see, stock market crashed. Unemployment was low in the 20s. So we go up to him being elected president. That's when it was high. We're going to go down again for some of his New Deal programs to work. Then we have another recession where some of the stuff stops working. doesn't quite work as well. And then World War II begins, and that's where we're going to see everything get back to normal. All right. So I'm guessing, like I said, I guess this is unemployment, and but I'm not quite positive. All right, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, very powerful part of our government, still around today. They're basically the police of the stock market. So think of them that way. Regulates the stock market, tells companies what information must be included in their financial statements. All right, so this is saying this, we need this information from you or you can't sell stocks. It also basically investigates, if you ever heard the term insider trading, where a company, they're basically giving each other tips on what's going to happen in the future, or we're getting ready to go bankrupt. You know, that's called insider trading. That's illegal. They're going to regulate that. So like I said, they're the police of the stock market, and that's their logo right there. The next thing, and this one is going to be a controversial one. It's also going to put people to work, and it's going to provide something that really needed to happen, and it's the Tennessee Valley Authority. So we are going to help, this is going to help farmers and create jobs in one of the country's least developed regions. All right, so I think I got the map next. So see this area, it's not all Tennessee, it's Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia. I think West Virginia gets hit up in here a little bit too. And then it goes into Alabama, Atlanta, Mississippi. So, I mean, it's not just Tennessee, but it's a Tennessee Valley. So it's this big river valley right here. One of the problems here is all these rivers, they tend to flood in the spring. Okay, so they need some kind of flood control if people are going to live by them and live off of them. All right, and that's all of our rivers are basically have flood control of some kind at this point. And that's just something we developed over the years, because back in time, rivers would rise and fall really a lot during the rainy season. And so if you have a house that's right on the river, well, you couldn't in a lot of cases. So they've been flood controlled through different machines and stuff like that. In this case, another problem they're having, there's no electricity in this area. This is like the most underdeveloped part of our country. All right, this is like Appalachia as you hear it today. So think of, people who are living in shacks and have their stills in their backyard for their moonshine and no gas and nothing like that. They're basically, they don't have running water. And so this program is going to try to fix this problem of, the river controls and give them electricity at the same time. And so the big thing it does, it's going to use hydroelectric power facilities. So what that's going to do is it's going to provide flood control and cheap electricity. Okay, hydroelectric power, do you guys know how that's made? It's made just like that. Okay, so this dam right here, well, it's basically, there's turbines in there that the water's turning. And so it provides electricity without burning coal or any other resources, and it keeps the river under control. And there's a ton of these set up in the Tennessee Valley now to control and provide electricity. All right, so this is going to be the main thing that they're going to do, is build these dams. And as you would expect, those aren't easy projects. So it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to give a lot of people jobs. In the long run, it's going to help develop this area for the first time. We probably wouldn't have cities like Memphis and Nashville and Chattanooga like we do today, big cities that they are like they are today. All right, but the problem, and here's why it's controversial. Oops, didn't say that. Okay, well, the reason it's controversial, because this electricity that they're providing, in some parts of it, there were electricity. And now that this government electricity is going to compete with a privately owned business. And that's a big deal that people don't think is right. Some people don't. If the government's offering cheaper electricity and you just care about electricity, because I don't know about you. I like electricity. I don't care who provides it. I would go with the cheapest person as long as it's the same service. You know, it's just how I am. I think most people think that way. So if the government provided cheaper than the private business might go out of business. And so that's where there's this big controversy there. Okay, and I think maybe we get into that later. Maybe I'm just missing it. Okay, Social Security system. This is one of the lasting effects as well of the New Deal. Regular payments to people who cannot support themselves, and they fall into different categories. Okay, retired, over 65 years old. You guys have heard of this. This is the main arm of the Social Security programs today. And this is the one that everybody argues about all the time. Originally, unemployment was also part of the Social Security system. Okay, this has been taken out of Social Security system and formed its own little unemployment, thing. Bureau of Workmen's Compensation in Ohio, but it has its own federal government program and everything too. Aid for dependent children, the blind and the physically disabled. This is also part of the Social Security program today. I mean, all these have changed a little bit over the years, but the basic premise of the program still exists. All right. And to pay for this, basically, as soon as you get a job, you get Social Security taxes taken out, and your taxes get saved up by the government. And then there should be enough money at the end with all this savings to give you a retirement program. All right. That's the rationale of it. But a lot of people today don't like Social Security. They would rather, because there's always people saying it's going to run out. Part of the reason it's going to run out is because Congress has taken money from it to use for other things, which many people do not like also. So this is a controversial subject right now. But if somebody's taking my money for what's going to be my retirement, I want that when my retirement comes. I think most people would. So that's the big problem. One of the big things, Social Security now. And some people say if they invest their own money themselves, they can, they'll get more money at the end than Social Security, which is true. But how many are actually going to invest this money themselves? And that's another one of those things. And the government sees a problem. Well, if you didn't invest your money and now you're 70 years old, you can't work anymore. What are you going to do? Well, guess who you're going to have to come to for help? The government. And that's one of the reasons that they don't take Social Security away. So it's like a lot of government programs. It's got its pros and its cons and its goods and its bads. And depending on who you ask, will depend on whether they think it's good or not. And that's how our country works, because some programs help some people, some help other people, and it's always going to be that way. We're a very diverse country, and I don't mean diverse just by the way we look. I mean diverse by how much we make, what kind of job we have, what our values are. We're just different, and there's nothing wrong with that. But different people want different things, and they want different things from their government. And some people don't want to pay for other people's different things, and so that's kind of one of those things too that people are always complaining about. All right, so here's where, before this scheme right here, we're going to see Franklin Roosevelt basically being the most popular president ever. Okay, he's elected 4 times. Yeah, it's illegal today. 4 times. After this, Congress is going to say, whoa, we don't want a president to become more powerful than us. So we're going to make an amendment to the Constitution that's going to say president cannot serve be elected more than 2 terms to president, 2 consecutive terms to president. So this is, Roosevelt has caused that problem for Congress. I kind of got off track there by saying it, but that's how it is. But this is going to lose him a lot of popularity right here, this court packing scheme. And this is what the Democrats are talking about doing right now. Well, they did when they were going through their election. So this is the same kind of thing. And people, don't necessarily like it. Okay, so the Supreme Court kept finding FDR's programs unconstitutional. So a lot of these programs like the NRA did not fit within the framework of the Constitution. So they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, you can't do this. This doesn't fit within the Constitution. This law is gone. This program is gone. All right. And it's not just the NRA, that's just the most famous, but a lot, because the NRA is unfairly regulating business. So businesses got together and took this to court. So because this is happening, FDR's ticked off. The Supreme Court stopping me from fixing the country. That's his thinking. Whether he's right or wrong, doesn't matter. The Supreme Court looks at the Constitution and says whether this fits in the Constitution and whether it doesn't fit. But the Supreme Court also have the way they interpret the Constitution is a little differently from one another. So you never really know how they're going to be. That's why a president appoints Supreme Court justices. You want guys who think, like President Trump was able to appoint 3 justices. So they're conservative justices. If President Biden's able to appoint justices, he's going to appoint more liberal justices. And they're going to see things more like that. For the conservatives, they look at the Constitution as this is how it is. And I always like to say, compare it to the Bible. Okay, if you know anything about the Bible, there are people who read the Bible and think every single story in there is absolutely true. Everything. Nothing is just a story. Everything is absolutely true. And that's kind of how the conservatives view the Constitution. And then there's others who look at the Bible and look at the preachings of the Bible and don't necessarily think that the stories happened exactly this way everybody says they did. There's some storytelling to it. And that's kind of how the Democrats see, or the liberals see the Constitution. There's some wiggle room in there. And so it's basically, looking at this thing and whether you're going to look literally at it or you're going to look at it more figuratively. And so in this case, FDR is more of the look at it figuratively, where, yeah, we can change it a little bit here and there if we need to, which the Constitution doesn't really say. It says that, but you have to add an amendment to do that. That's the whole amendment process. So I said that the NRA is invalidated. And here's FDR, this cartoon right here. You've held things up too long. So we had the Supreme Court. He's a police officer giving them a ticket. They're not letting him do certain things or give money to these programs until their court cases are heard in some cases, in some of these programs. So it's just one of these things that they keep fighting with one another. So his solution, the U.S. Constitution says nothing about the amount of justices the court should have. All right, so we just have our 12 now just because that's what the number we came to. So what he wants to do is he wants to add 6 new justices, and he says 1 for every sitting justice over 70 years old. So everybody sees this for what it is. He wants to put his people, 6 more people on the court, his people, in order to make the majority his majority, so he can pass all his stuff. Okay, everybody sees this what it is, and they're like, no, we don't want to do this. And this is where he starts to lose his popularity from both parties. He withdraws this, but this is one thing he does that people, don't really like. Okay, so let's conclude this New Deal. Main thing, it does not take us out of the Great Depression. It helps, and it sets up the stage for a depression not to happen in the future. Okay, that's a big thing. A lot of these problems with the stock market crash, will never happen again. We will see some recessions. You've seen one in your lifetime. You might not have understood it because you were kids, but we'll see recessions come and go. I've seen a few of them in my lifetime, but they'll go and things will be better again, but not the Great Depression. That was, 35, actually 35, I think, % of our country was unemployed at one point. And the ones who were employed, a lot of them were underemployed, which means they could work more than they actually were. Okay. What the main thing about the New Deal is it did expand the role of the federal government. Okay, remember I said before this, the federal government really wasn't involved in our day-to-day lives. Now it is. All right, from taking away for some people tax money. Okay, I get my income tax taken away. I get my property taxes taken, and then I get sales tax taken. All these taxes, and then if I have any stocks or bonds or all this other stuff, everything's taxed. And so my money gets taken away to go somewhere else. Okay. Other people get money coming to them, you know, and so it's good and it's bad, but it's both, you know, it all depends on how you look at it. So the government is involved in our lives in one way or another. I mean, before you didn't really see it. You saw traffic lights, you saw police officers, you saw schools, fire departments, you know, that's all government and that's all part of your lives. But the other stuff now is more and more, and regulations are more and more part of your lives that weren't there before this New Deal took over. All right. Some of these things are very good. You know, not everything's good. And like I said, it all depends on who you ask. So that's one of those things that is always going to be the same way, and it's never going to change. So never argue over government, okay, or politics, because it's just a waste of time. Because some people feel this way because not just the way they were raised, but I mean, part of it's because they were raised this way, and because this is how the government helps them, because that's what we want. I guess all of us is the government to help us in some way. And so, you know, if they're going to help us, then we like it. If it doesn't help us, we don't like it. And it's just human nature that way, right? So I think that's the last of the slides. Yes, it is. And boom. All right. So let's keep going. I want to talk about your exit ticket, your homework for tonight. Okay, don't forget to do the exit ticket. It is open, it looks like. Here's the homework. It is just a worksheet, a Google form. So answer these questions. Okay, I think there's 4 or 5 of them, yeah. Okay, so if you want to get a copy of your responses, go ahead. But this will tell it. I'll have to grade your essays, but the other things will be graded right away. Okay, so that's all for homework. And do your exit ticket, and that's about it. That's it for the New Deal. Tomorrow, hopefully I have to remind the other teacher to send me her Kahoot review. If not, I'm gonna have to figure something out to do a review. She said she would do it last night and she did not do it. It's made. It just I don't really want to make something that's already made. She just has to share it with me. That's simple as that. She must have forgotten. But that's it for the New Deal. That's it for the Great Depression, the 1920s. So this will all be in the post-assessment today or tomorrow. So class will simply be review, and I'll give you time to do the assessment, which you can do it on your own whenever. The review should help you get good grade on the assessment, and that's that. So like always, if there's no questions, you guys are free to go.
Have a good day.
Mr. Howell,
Thanks. See you, Diana.
my baby cousin is trying to talk to you.
I hear that. Hi.
Hold on, wait. Hold on.
Hi.
He laughs at you all the time. I don't know why.
I'm hilarious. Didn't you know that?
That's what my aunt said.
I should have been a comedian, but I guess I chose teaching instead. So, oh man. All right, I'm gonna go. I have to go do something school wise. So
Have a good day.
thanks. I hope you guys all have a great day.